Yes, ESOP, lead ambassador Olive Emodi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you, Olive. And volunteer team lead, Gusi Toby Lord Williams. Morning,
Thank you.
Toby.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show. Hello,
Welcome.
let's do that again.
Thank you.
Hi, Toby.
Good
Is
morning.
it
Thank you for
Gussie?
having me.
Gussie or Toby?
Gusi is fine.
Gussie. This is fine. All right, fantastic. We also have joining us representatives of another organization. We're looking forward to having them join us. And the conversation is one has that seems to have taken a spotlight in recent times, particularly because of the reality of environmental sustainability. But before we share the details of the talking points for today's conversation, I'd like to share with our listeners ways in which they can be a part of this discussion. You can please send your message to WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. On Twitter,
We're at Smooth981 FM. Use that hashtag Lagos Talks 981. We're streaming live on YouTube, so you can join the conversation. Please remember to send those messages through WhatsApp platform 0809 444
all right. So a few days back, almost 5 days ago to be exact, 10th of January 2020, the Environmental Protection Agency for Lagos State, that's LASEPA, says it is set to ban all single-use plastics within its premises from January 13. I think the first question that some people, which may seem very mundane and easy to understand, but for the benefit of our listeners, just let's assume that not everyone would understand. What do you mean by single-use plastics?
So I think the simple term for defining single-use plastic would be plastic that is originally intended to be used once and thrown away. Now, there are several examples to this. We know that the bottles we all use. We know in Lagos, when you want to drink water, you buy your water. So many people buy water in traffic from supermarkets, and those plastic bottles, they're made with they are called PET, meaning polyethylene terephthalate, and these bottles are basically single use. You use them once, you throw them away.
Yeah.
The same thing, we have coffee cups, we have straws, we have plates. We all go to eat out, and then you buy your food.
Take out.
Exactly, take
Yeah,
out
in
the
plastic.
styrofoam, the styrofoam packs, the
All
plastic
the
packs.
okay.
Yeah, so all of these fall under the category of single use
Nylon
because
bag.
they're meant exactly the bags, the what we all know as the nylon bags. We use them once and then we throw them away.
And we erroneously call them paper bags, but they're not.
No, they're not at all. There are actually things called paper bags, which are better alternatives for these plastic bags, and which a lot of companies, or supermarkets, or stores around the world use in place of this plastic bag. So they use paper bags. For example, you go to shop at certain malls, and they'll pack everything for you inside a paper bag, but not really that much in Nigeria.
But I mean, somebody would listen to what you would have listened to what you just said and ask, so who does it affect? How? How do these things affect us? I mean, seeing that we've survived, we've thrived, so, quote unquote, up to this point with those single-use plastics,
Okay.
and yeah, business as usual. But what harm could it possibly cause
Okay.
the
So,
environment?
that's a very good question because when you tell people, there was a joke online recently that a gatekeeper threw plastic bottle on the ground, and then one of the residents of the estate picked up the plastic bottle and threw it into the trash, and then the gatekeeper went to his house and started begging, oh please, I hope he didn't use it for jazz, because he doesn't have information, he's not aware. Now people don't know the effect of these things in the environment and also to them personally. So there's this thing about plastic that it's biodegradable, it doesn't break down,
Non-biodegradable,
non-biodegradable rather, it doesn't break down. So unlike paper bags where it can break down, you even if you burn it, it's not so bad. But if you burn plastic, it has its effect on the environment. It pollutes the air and things like that. For example, once you see this plastics in the ocean and everything, it affects the fishes, it affects the soil, it also affects the animals, because once it affects the oils, the animals eat from the plants and it affects the plants. It also affects us, the airs that we breathe and all of that. But when you're explaining it to people, people barely understand. So we need to explain deeper to make them understand that okay, it's not just the animals or the plants that this thing affects, it affects you personally
Yeah.
too.
In fact, in addition to that, I'd like to add that we see flooding. We know of the flooding in Ghana, for example, in 2015 that killed about 200 people. And flooding is not something that we're not familiar with. we're seeing it happening every day. Our rains, with just a little rain, there's a flooding everywhere. Why? Because our drainages are blocked, our canals, we're seeing a lot of plastic stuck in these drainages. So that is one reason. I will still talk about how it affects the environment, but I'd like to talk about how it affects the individual.
Before you talk about how it affects the individuals, talking about plastic, go say from what you mentioned, I'd just like to read from a report, the WHO report as to the dangers and what we've called plastic pollution. So it's become a major environmental problem in several African countries. It's a form of chemical pollution, as you mentioned. Microplastics are not, they don't break down. So some of them take about thousands of years to degrade, and so it's just there.
It never really completely
Yes,
breaks
it
down.
never really completely. So you throw it away. Unlike other things that you can recycle, you throw it out, and for it has to be put somewhere because you can't do without it. It's going to be there. Now, WHO noted that some of the world's most popular bottled water brands contain tiny pieces of plastics. They can be found in marine water, wastewater, freshwater, food, air, and our drinking water.
Exactly.
We have large proportions of plastics in the stomachs of animals. It's just let people understand why this conversation is important, why we must talk what we see as, harmless actions, drinking this, doing using that, why it is such a big deal. So thank you very much for highlighting this. Really
Yes,
good stuff.
thank you. And
Right.
somehow we end up eating plastic,
Yes.
So
Please tell us how that works.
So the reports have stated that when this plastic can be found in tap water, microplastics, we see little components when it's finally, so plastic only breaks down into microplastic, which is a smaller form of plastic. It never completely breaks down. And somehow these things find a way into the water. How? So you throw them in the landfills. The landfills cannot absorb plastic. They end up breaking down, and in the process of breaking down, they're releasing harmful gases into the air. But beyond that, when they break down into smaller forms and find their way into our water, this water finds its way back into our homes and we end up drinking it. Now let's talk about our seafood. The seafood eat it. The fish mistakes plastic for food and they eat it. And cooking heat is not meant to break down plastic. It cannot break down plastic. So even whilst this plastic is in the belly of the seafood, they eventually die and they find their way to our plate. And we end up eating plastic. And you feel, because you've cooked the fish, you've killed all
boiled it very
exactly,
well.
you boiled it very well, but that only kills the germs. It doesn't break down the plastic. So somehow plastic still finds its way back into our body. There have been several reports here and there, people doing research as to the relation between plastic and cancer, but there's still speculations here and there. But seeing that we don't even know what exactly causes cancer, wouldn't it be better that we're safe than sorry?
And we're dealing with what we know.
Exactly.
It's a very important point that somebody just sent in. Please, we encourage you to send in your names with your messages on WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. This one says, we moved from paper bags to save the trees and hence save the planet, and now we'll move to plastic. Is there an alternative to this?
Well, let's talk about, speaking about paper bags. Paper bags, yes, we understand that.
The real paper bags.
Yes, the
Yeah,
real
the
paper
real
bags.
waterproof.
Not waterproof, the real paper bags.
Yeah.
Now, it's easy to say, oh, but paper bags are also affecting the trees. What you forget is that you can actually plant trees. There's something called carbon offset. I remember when they were attacking Meghan Markle and her husband. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, saying, no, you flew private jet to Elton John's home, and you people are climate change activists. And then Elton John said, I know about their preferences and their drives and how much they are passionate about climate change. Therefore, I converted the equivalent of that flight and paid it into carbon offset. So what they do is they plant trees. People donate. People find ways to donate for funding research and funding ways to plant trees. So you can actually plant trees. But how do you now get rid of the plastic is the problem. You cannot get rid of the plastic. The only way is to actually stop producing plastic.
Yes. So what you're saying is that it's actually better to use paper bags
Yes,
than
it
it
is.
is to use plastics.
Yes,
Because at
it
least with
is.
paper bags, number one, you can recycle them. Number two, you can plant more trees. So you can actually replace what has been lost. But with plastics, there's nothing. You can't do anything. It's just there. It's clogging our drainage systems. I think that's one that Nigerians can, or Lagosians can
Yes.
definitely identify with. It is affecting our body systems because we find them in the food that we eat. It's affecting our fish marine life because fishes eat these plastics, microplastics, thinking they're food. And when I saw a report once where they opened, the stomachs of some of marine
a whale.
of
Yeah.
and then it had a lot of
Loads of
plastics
plastic,
in
In
it.
fact, they say that we are producing as much as the human population in weight when it
Yes.
comes to plastic every day, every year. Now, just imagine. Lagos has potentially 200 million people. And then just imagine that everybody in
Sorry,
Lagos,
200 million or 20?
Sorry.
Lagos alone.
Lagos
Lagos
alone.
alone.
So
22
Lagos has
million.
about 22 million people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say Nigeria.
Yes, please.
Nigeria has potentially 200 million people. So imagine that everybody has a bottle of drink, a bottle of water, knowing that some people cannot do without certain brands in the morning, in the afternoon. night. So some people have more than one a day. So that means we're potentially having 200 million plastic bottles a day. In a year, when you multiply that by 365, we're having billions of plastic.
And that's not
Now
even
multiply
adding sachet water.
Exactly, we're not adding sachet water. We're not adding straws,
Thank you.
plastic
So
cups.
many things.
Those who are going to do coffee and all that. So
All right, I think when we come back from this break, it would be nice for us to break it down and not make the assumption that people understand what constitutes plastics. When you mention straws, and people, my straw is just a harmless
Straw is
piece of-"
straw now.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that after this break. In case you're just tuning in, we're speaking to representatives of the Foundation for the Elimination of Single-Use Plastics. The conversation is around environmental sustainability for Nigeria and talking about the plastic plague. Please join us after this break.
love life.
So does plastic have a plural?
Yeah, they can use plastic. Yeah, they're both
Hi,
correct.
Doyin. Doyin Salah.
Hi, Doyin.
Hi, how you doing? Good morning.
Hi,
Oh,
good
okay.
to see you.
morning, I'm
Good morning,
doing
dear.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll give you this. Hi there, how are you? Good morning. Happy New Year to you too. Good to see you. Great conversation so far.
And
Ma?
you want to move the mic?
Okay.
Hold here. Hold here.
Okay.
And
Sorry, maybe you and
I'll show you the.
is it Gusi?
Gusi, yeah.
You and Gusi.
This is
As I call her Toby.
so you
Yeah.
press the red button if you want to-
Easy. Me to call Atobio.
Lagosian name. But Gusi is her first name. So
Yeah.
she's not Gusi. Okay, we have comments.
Please, can you share the script that has the names of
It's she sent it on my WhatsApp on check your breakfast.
I don't know.
Check your breakfast. Your dinner,
She
uncle.
just sent it to me.
How are you doing?
I'm fine,
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. But it's not grapevine. I just did dry jokes.
Well,
He said, check your breakfast. And I said, breakfast, what of his dinner? Now, I won't do that one.
Okay. You will just forget yourself.
So we can use this together.
Yeah, we'll share one by
yeah,
two so
so
that we
that-
know when each person is answering.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because both of you will probably answer one as well.
Okay.
So, Dwayne, how would you like to be introduced? Are you because on this we have that you are a member of the board of trustees for Recyclers Association of Nigeria.
Yes, but I didn't collect permission from them.
From them,
before.
yes, that's why. So how did that come up? Maybe so how would you like to be introduced? We'll come
Founder
back
of
now.
the Kids Beach Garden.
Kid
Kids Beach Garden.
Kids Beach Garden. Mike's up, studio is like. You're welcome back. It is the Lagos Talks 981 special here on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station. I'm Ayo Myro Essay.
And I'm Valentine. Oh.
The conversation this morning is on environmental sustainability for Nigeria, the plastic plague. If you're just tuning in, we have guests from the Foundation for Elimination of Single-Use Plastics, lead ambassador Olive Emodi. Hello, Olive.
Hello, Aya. Thank you for having me.
And we have volunteer team lead, Gusi Toby Lord Williams.
Thank you for having me, Ayo.
Welcome, Gracie.
Thank you. And then we have the founder of the Kids Beach Club, Kids Beach Club, Joinsola Ogunye. Morning, Joinsola.
Good morning.
Joinsola is also a member of the board of trustees for Recyclers Association of Nigeria. Just to mention that she's done a lot of advocacy work with regards to the environment in Nigeria. So thanks for joining the conversation this morning. Before the break, we broke down actually what single-use plastics we would refer to, and plastics, its dangers, what it causes. We looked at marine life, we looked at drainage blockages, and then we have some comments and questions. If you'd like to join the conversation, please send your messages.
Yes, send it to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981, Twitter is at Smooth981 FM. The hashtag is Lagos Talks 981. We're streaming live on YouTube since it's a special, so you can join the conversation there too. There are a few examples of certain African countries that have implemented certain policies to ensure that um, the the plastic bags or plastic is eradicated. Single-use plastic is not in circulation. Places like Tanzania, places like Rwanda, we find that they are putting in stringent measures. For instance, I know that at the airports, I had the help of somebody, one official, which is very rare, warned me because I was pulling out a plastic bag, and she actually said you were going to be arrested if you weren't spotted early. What could Nigeria do? Do you think we're anywhere near implementing any policy whatsoever to protect us from this?
Okay, we have started, but we have a long way to go. And I'm really glad that you mentioned these countries, because it's also very imperative for us to mention that Africa is taking the lead when it comes to campaigns and awareness. When it comes, at least we're not in the spotlight for something negative. We're taking the lead. Other countries have done well. Rwanda is the neatest, the cleanest country in Africa, and they're very strict with this. Kenya has the strictest rules.
Yes.
I think Kenya has about 4 years imprisonment,
Yes,
if I'm
jail
correct.
time.
With Nigeria, 21st of March last 1st of March or 21st of May, I'm not quite certain, a bill was passed in the House of Reps. It was called the Plastic Bag Prohibition Bill 2018. We're hoping that they would harmonize with the Senate and it will become law. The details basically is just to curb the production, manufacturing, and importation of plastic bags. So if we can start with that first, that would be a first step in the right direction. Although we know not just the plastic bags contribute to the problem, we also have the plastic bottles. The PET bottles are a huge problem. And also we know that that's also as a result of the fact that access to potable water in Nigeria is a problem. So how do you even say you want to drink water when you know that the only ones you can manage to trust are in these PET bottles? But there are ways around that as well.
That's really important. And like you mentioned, the ways around that. And it's great to hear the achievements of Nigeria and the Lagos State government so far in promoting the end of single-use plastics. But I'd like to ask Dorinsola, you've done work extensively in this area. What would you say when you started? I think you celebrated 10 years recently.
10 years.
What would you say have been the achievements you've seen from then till now with regards to environmental sustainability in Nigeria?
Okay, I would say first of all, thank you. And it's the Kids Beach Garden, not
Thank you.
Kids Beach Club. Yes, thank you. So I would say that first of all, the mindset of the people, the mindset of Nigerian it has changed. I remember when we started, like there was really nothing like recycling. I was actually one of the first people to go to Loma to say, okay, what are we doing about this problem? And we started to teach children at that time. So, the children that were like 4, 5 years old then, they're 15, 16 years old now, and they've started their own, active campaigns. They started cleaning their own, portions of Lagos State, be it the drainages, be it the beaches and things like that. So, I would say that for me is an achievement because we like to see young people, especially children, spearheading these things. That's number one. Number two, we've seen a lot of more companies, a lot more recycling companies, start up in Nigeria, and people are beginning to see the business aspect of recycling of recycling waste. So I would say for me those are the take backs in the last 10 years.
Please let's talk about the business. Because when I hear that, my ears just break up. What kind of money, what sort of profits could be made from recycling?
Well, it's a whole value chain. I like to say it's a whole value chain. We just started a project for women and youth, which is RESWAYE, basically the recycling scheme for women and youth empowerment. And for the more value you add to a plastic bottle, the more valuable it becomes. For example, if you uncap it, the plastic bottle has 3 types of plastic, the plastic bottle itself, the cover, and also the film around it, the labeling around it. Yeah. So if you separate these things, the value becomes more.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, if you separate these things, the value, if you bale it, the value becomes more. If you shred it, if you wash it, the value becomes more. If you pelletize it, the value becomes more. So it depends on where in the value chain you want to be at. But we always say that the collectors and the aggregators are the most important part, especially the collectors, because if you're not collecting from source, which the Lagos State government is trying to do with the Blue Box initiative to encourage people to separate their waste from source, if you're not collecting clean bottles, the value goes down. So the business and also the mindset, everything kind of like goes together. So you have to make sure you're getting clean bottles and you're making sure you're supplying clean bottles to the offtake.
Thank you very much. Just giving a business model to our friends who go around streets collecting bottles so they know to separate to improve the value.
They have, like you mentioned, we have seen a rise in recyclers, if I use that. One of the things as well is that we're talking about ending single-use plastics, but we're also looking at how those are already on ground, so as not to clog our roads, so as not to cause damage to our marine life, how we can recycle them so that they're used again. And so it's a good combination, because someone's asked here on Twitter, on WhatsApp, sorry, what role does recycling play in plastic disposal? So that's bringing both of them together now. So what role does recycling play in plastic disposal?
Okay, so we don't particularly focus on recycling, and the reason why we don't is because studies show that only 9% of plastic in the world is recycled, and that 91% of the plastic isn't recycled. And this is looking at countries where they teach them how to sort out their waste. Nigeria, thankfully, Doyin and her team have started work, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to waste disposal. People are still excited in the rural areas. We see people excited when it's raining because they can throw out their trash in the rain, and it's like they're not paying money for people to dispose of their trash. So we are not really focusing on recycling. Whilst we agree that it can be a good idea for us to look at recycling, exploring the idea of recycling for the plastic that has already been made. Our main call, or our core focus, is to stop the production of these things, because we produce much more than we can recycle, much more than we can use. Several people have done a lot with recycling. We have the plastic, I think it's called the plastic village somewhere. There are people who are trying their best, but it's still not enough. So we need to stop it. That's
so
our
we need to
focus.
just put a total ban to it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
There's a message and a picture that's attached to it, so sent to us from Surulere by Emmanuel. Emmanuel, thank you very much. We'll see how I can grab this and share on Twitter. Emmanuel says, this is what came out of my canal when it rained in 2018. Our drainages are completely blocked with takeaway packs and plastic bottles.
It's shocking, honestly, seeing that picture. And then we have from Gubemi, in Rwanda, plastic bags are banned, like you mentioned, Val, and paper bags are used in all the supermarkets and shops. We can start from there. In Wales, I remember before it became really popular, they were one of the first people to ban the use. And I remember when I was living there, I was like, how am I going to cope? What are you going to do?
Exactly.
But guess what? We got used to it.
Did you see the photos of what happened in Tanzania as well? They just started in New Year with a ban on plastic bags, and it's so interesting to see how creative
that
they've
was how
become.
it was. So it was actually fun going out. You literally always have a bag in your bag because you never know when you have to stop at a shop. So what looks like, how is that going to work? It is actually really possible. It is possible.
Because when you take away an alternative, people will find another one.
We
to
carry
keep.
bags everywhere because if you don't carry bag, they start charging actually. So you pay 5 pence for a bag. If you don't want to spend extra, particularly if you're buying how many things.
It's beautiful you mentioned that, because people who are not aware would question that move. Maybe if there's a fine or a fee that's placed on plastic bags, that's an incentive to disincentivize people from using those materials.
And we're all about revenue generation at this moment.
So
So there are basically different ways to curb it. So either they do the total or a partial plastic bag ban, or the economic taxes that are imposed. That is, you pay extra. And some people even do incentives. There's a certain store in South Africa that says that if you use a recycling bag, you get a discount from your shopping. So there are many, even there's one in Canada that announced, because I don't want to start calling brand names, there's one in Canada recently that announced that they're going to stop all plastic bags in their stores, and they have 233 stores around Canada. So that's saving at least 233. Of course, we know it cannot be just 233 bags.
And who says it must start with the government? The government institutions can contribute to this, because that's a way of contributing to the health.
I was going to say that. So I hope you're taking this message to these big stores, because they're the ones who are the most guilty. Because if you don't make it available, it's not going to be available. If you have a policy in your stores that doing is laughing, smiling, maybe she's thinking you're thinking too wild. But the truth is that if you lobby these these chain stores and they know that they are not going to be providing plastic bags, they are also a
Yes.
great way to disincentivize people from using them.
Yeah, so can I say something real
Yes,
quick?
please.
Because every time I go to the supermarket, I try to
Mhm.
have my bag with me.
Mm.
Sometimes I don't know when I have to go, but when I go, I'm just like, you know what? Let me buy a bucket. Let me buy a bucket. So I just like put everything in the bucket or
Amazing.
something and
Mm.
just use it. And every time I get to the to the till and they're like, oh okay, let me put it in the bag for you. I'm like, no, 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 don't put it. And they're like, why? I'm like,
You catch a
"No."
few stares.
And they look at me like I'm weird, like, and I'm like,
Yes.
I don't want it. Like, some people when they come, they will ask for five
Yeah.
different
Bless you
things.
for
It
raising
happens
that.
like
Yes.
and if they don't want to give that much, there's a problem there. So it goes back to the people that are using these bags.
And I think it also goes back to our mindset as
Yes.
Nigerians. The average Nigerian home has a drawer where they have
Or back
plastic
of your door.
bags, or the back of your door. So every bag has a plastic bag inside another bag that has another plastic
Why?
bag.
Because we use it to dispose waste.
Yeah, so that's another problem.
from that,
Our waste disposal methods.
We'll get into that. Let's go to messages first.
All right, before we get to messages, we'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll take your messages and comments, questions, and then we'll come back to the conversation. This is Smooth 98.1. What are we now going to do
Let's
to the
move on
one
to
beds
that,
and plastics as
Ah,
souvenirs?
exactly.
What are we going to do to plastics as souvenirs at parties?
That's
What
one.
are we going to do to plastics as storing soup in the pot?
Yeah.
That's why plastic is a problem. It's durability.
Oh, I'm
The
so
fact
sorry.
that it's very easy.
Someone asked I just gave money to them.
So you can announce it today.
Oh, so
that-
yeah, you're teaching
Let
me.
me-
though. I'm learning. I'm not your
Let me
ambassador.
Okay, please. Plastic.
Those are
So those ones are not single-use
They're
plastic.
talking about
exactly.
single
Single
use.
use.
Yes.
No, we already
The
defined it,
plastic
but
you
we
use
explain.
singly.
Use and throw away.
So I think it's good
Those
to
they call
plastics
leather.
are not bad.
Yes.
It's single-use plastic that you use and throw away.
That's
What's
single
the single use when I'm storing it into another?
Yeah, my sister says it's double use.
I was going to say that.
My
I
sister
know. I didn't want to say.
A lot of the time. A lot of the time.
Yeah, but you dispose your plastic bowls at some
No,
point.
but after, do you know how many use? I had a video I just did.
Have you gone to a typical home? How they use
That's
their
single use. The
how they use their
manufacturer
bag?
intended
No,
it for it to be used
And
once.
it's the
Your
process of
straws,
manufacturing
your
that actually makes it
single-use
single
bags.
You know
Yeah,
what?
but you know why?
what's very
PET
interesting about
bottles
these
and-
bags,
and,
the plastic bags?
I think there's
Most
one
of us
more.
like
There's
we
one
find
more.
it very
I can't
useful
remember
because
the
we
last
throw
one now, but they call it
wet
the big
things
thing.
inside, and we prefer it because it collects the water.
There was actually a discovery recently.
Yeah, someone. Oh, this is good. Someone asked the
Fish.
bucket question, so can I use that to
What
differentiate?
discovery?
A discovery where a girl did I need to get her name. She did a project where she makes
I'll come
something
back
similar
in
to
6
plastic with
seconds.
fish
Camera is
scales.
there.
6
It is
seconds.
biodegradable.
6 seconds. 6 seconds.
Camera.
Mike's up. Studio is live, please. Hallelujah. We're talking about this conversation. This is a very important topic because honestly, the kind of conversation we've had even off air and the kind of questions we're receiving shows that this is something that's definitely important, and there are many areas for Nigerians, and we need to throw more light on this. If you're just joining us, you're most welcome, even though you're a bit late, but better late than never. Well, speaking on environmental sustainability for Nigeria and looking at the plastic plague. To have this conversation with us, we have representatives of the Foundation for the Elimination of Single-Use Plastics, advocates in that area with lead ambassador Oliver Modi and volunteer team lead Gusi Toby Lord Williams. Joining us as well is the founder, Kids Beach Garden, doing Salagunye also with this conversation. Would love for you to send in your messages as well. If you'd like to do so, WhatsApp number.
Our WhatsApp number is 0809-444-0981. We thank you very much for all the messages you're sending us. Those sending pictures, please, first of all, with all your messages, add your names. And if you're sending us pictures, we will really appreciate if you tweet those pictures to us at Smooth981FM. Use that hashtag Lagos Talks 981 with this conversation so we can retweet every single tweet and picture at Smooth981FM on Twitter.
Yes.
This one, I don't know your name, please add it. Your name, your number ends, thank you very much. Your number ends with 7990.
Yeah.
You said this is near Tejoshua Market. Picture was taken back in December of 2019.
Gosh.
The problem is multifaceted. There has to be the regulations to control manufacture, and there has to be a culture of either disposing plastics properly or not using single-use plastic containers. Unfortunately, both are not in existence. Now, it brings us back to where we left off the conversation before the break. Single, double, triple, quadruple use. Can we define, please?
Okay.
Okay, before we go into that, can I just quickly
Someone
say
asked
something?
that question. Buckets are plastic, right? Because we need sorry. Because someone asked the same question our producer asked. So going back to Doing Sola's take on, oh, you took a bucket to a plastic bucket. Sheye from Banana Island says buckets are plastics, right?
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
going to say.
So, Olive, do you want to talk about this real quick?
Yeah, they are plastic, but they're not single use. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time, why people focus on the problems that single use plastic, we loosely define single use plastic as plastic designed to be used once and thrown away. And a lot of the time, the process of producing this plastic, now plastics they are byproducts of fossil fuel extraction. So sometimes in the process, they use more energy. There's a lot more that goes into producing these things because of how easy they are. They're cheaper, but they are more harmful to the environment. So the quality of the plastic differs from plastic to plastic. We have the polyethylene terephthalate, that's the PET. We have high density polyethylene. We have low density polyethylene. We have polymer. So they're just different types of plastic. The single use ones, most times you see that they're lighter. Sometimes with packaging, there's even more to single use plastic that we mentioned. These shampoos we use in the supermarkets, the soaps that we use in the supermarket, a lot of them are made with single-use plastic because you never use those things again, and they just end up somewhere in the landfill or somewhere in the, in the sea. But you see these buckets, you use them over and over and over and over again. So it's just the quality of producing boats is totally different, and the usage of the plastic. There have been several arguments as to what constitutes single use and what doesn't constitute, but this is where we stand.
Thank you. Ayo from Goan Estate says, good morning, guys. Great topic. I feel those polythene bags used in packing groceries should be sold in these grocery stores. So when people think about the cost of buying these bags, it will reduce the way they are being thrown around. Thank you very much. Are there any sense in this one?
He says that in the UK, single-use plastic, for instance, shopping bags are now sold, so people could keep and reuse them instead of throwing away and further degrading the environment. Lagos State could start from here. He also said, since single-use plastics are non-biodegradable, how do we eradicate the plastics already polluting our environment?
By recycling.
So that's where it comes in.
Reduce-
Yeah, that's where
Exactly.
recycling comes in.
Exactly. So there are three things you have to do if you want to sustain the environment. I usually say there are the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And the first thing is literally reduce. Reduce your waste, reduce your plastic consumption, reduce these things. If you know you can do without it, why use it? So reuse what you actually have, it's
Yeah, what you already
Yeah.
have.
it's twisting my tongue.
Yeah.
Reduce what you already have. Like if you actually use the plastic bag, use it again. When you're sending somebody to get you something, use it again and again. So that's the single, double, quadruple. Use it as much as possible so that it does not get to the landfill. And separating from source. I think everybody can contribute or volunteer in your houses, in your offices, where you have areas of control. You can actually even ban the use of single plastic. I will say it here that if you're coming to the kids beach garden, the only thing we allow in plastic is water, and that's because this is the only beverage, or this is the only liquid that doesn't come in can or glass. So if you're coming to the beach, we're saying no, you can't bring in this and this. You must make sure it's in a can, or make sure it's in a glass bottle, or I don't know, the Terra Pak. Exactly. You make sure it's in a
Tetra
I'm
Tetra
even
Pak.
really excited that you
reusable
mentioned the water
bottles.
bit. I'd like to chip in real quick that when we ask ourselves what are the alternatives, now let's look at an example. Will Smith and his son, Jaden Smith, started a company, and this company basically produces water in carbon paper. And you look at, the way you see a lot of these juices that we buy, that's paper that they come in, but this is made of carbon paper, and the lid is made of sugarcane. So it is eco-friendly, water is sourced properly. So these are things that we can look into. When you go on the website, the water is always sold out. When you go to check, it's always sold out. It's a beautiful invention. Companies
And
that
a great money. So business owners,
Exactly,
business people, I hope you're the boss man.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we should think about it. This is where the government can then say, okay, put laws, put boundaries and enforcement, put incentives to say, okay, if you want to start an eco-friendly business of water production or water packaging, the government will come in and give you incentives in so and so area. So these are the things we should look forward to in the nearest future, because we have a crisis on our hands. We don't realize. According to Nigerian Conservation Center Foundation, they say that by 2050, the whole of Lagos Island will be submerged in water. So that we have literally a crisis. Climate change, of course, there are people that are denying climate change. They are not
It's
our target
difficult to
audience.
deny it at the moment with what you've seen.
Oh, they still deny
They
it, and they
still
tell
deny it.
you that
Australia.
people like people that are activists are just basically seeking attention. They attack Greta Thunberg and all the people who are doing work with regards to creating awareness. But we are in a crisis, whether we like it or not. The question is, in a few years, will our children have a planet remaining for them?
Thank you.
I have questions in my head, but Alicia Ogbolo Google sent the message on YouTube. She said to start with, pure water or sachet water bottles, takeaway packs from small shops, for small shops, Nigerian social lifestyle contributing to the mess. As she continues to say, I have so many bags for waste disposal. We use and reuse plastic for food. Question is, when the bowls are thrown away, what happens?
What happens? I asked that.
Recycle.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good one
Recycle.
for storage.
Now, talking about the recycling, right? When you mention recycling as a business model, as an exercise, the average man would think of it as a Herculean project to undertake, like a refinery. Is there a way to bring recycling down to your house, like for you to recycle locally within your
Okay.
space?
Your recycling literally starts from separating from source. So every time you have waste and you separate the recyclables from the non-recyclables,
Can we name them? Give
your
examples of
okay,
items.
plastic, can, glass, carton.
Mm.
Those are the four major ones that the Lagos state government is trying to tackle with the Blue Box initiative.
Okay.
Every time you separate these things from source, you are already helping. In fact, that's one of the best things you can do for the recycling value chain in Lagos state. And anybody can do it from anywhere. Just put it in another bag, separate it. When they come, they recognize it. When the PSP operators come, when the recyclers in the neighborhood come, even, the men that actually push these little carts, you see
Yes,
them
waste
everywhere.
disposal.
Yes, they're actually recycling. They're actually picking what they
Yeah,
actually
sorting.
want.
I think they call them
sorting it.
condemn. I
They,
am condemned.
they call them condemned, they call them scavengers, they call them abuki, they call them anything, but
Yeah.
they're actually really, really, really doing a lot, and they're making a kill, from it. So separation from source is the best thing you can do to actually help recycling in Lagos State.
All right, thank you very much. We continue or we wrap up the conversation in a few minutes. It seems like something we could go on and on talking about because there's so much to talk about. But Lagos, this is Lagos Talks 91 is special on environmental sustainability for Nigeria, looking at the plastic plague. After this break, we'll be back to wrap up the conversation and hopefully get a commitment from you to end single-use plastic.
Love life.
it's dark.
Ẹ ṣé o, ẹ kú iṣẹ́ o.
Michelle, well done, well done. This is a great conversation to have. Deep conversation, actually.
Yeah.
But
Sorry?
No, I'm talking
One
to
time.
my
I went to check
Oh,
out.
they are streaming.
I'm actually live.
I've been trying to go live.
Because remember I mentioned
My internet
that
is
we start
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
What am I going to listen to?
this is
How long is it?
Hello. Hi, well done. Amazing work.
So
Thank
what
you.
happened?
What's your
So I
Instagram? Let me
checked.
just
So,
Valentine.
my personal all
Valentine. Valentine.
single-use plastic NG.
Come for a second. So I went to check out what we're doing on Twitter. You remember I was saying we should push for Twitter, freshly pressed and all that. So what I noticed is that we did well today.
We
I
should
think,
actually do something
from what
like
I
a
saw on
collaboration,
Twitter.
maybe
We
come and
actually had
do a
meetings.
meeting
I
of
don't know if you
you
guys
guys.
did.
We need to read it.
That's another
Because the
thing.
truth is, you can't fight this thing.
If you there were more messages, you guys, there were more messages today. So please always
Okay,
more.
okay. More than yes.
That's
Because
one
it will
thing
now
you
take
have to
people
do
to
now. When they notice that you're constantly mentioning can you come message from Twitter, they will go to
Because
Twitter
that's
and
the way we
realize
can
that
even
their
share.
messages are not being read from WhatsApp. That's the only way we can track. So I went to check today and then I realized that some people actually do send us messages, but they don't add the 981.
Yes.
So we need to now hammer on it that our hashtag is we must add 981 before we can see.
So you're the ones that take all those photos on
We have
Instagram.
a number
Yeah, we
How
can
does
see.
it follow?
today.
So guys, if you're watching
Today's
this,
conversation
please
was very
talk
good
to
because we had some.
somebody
Okay, guys, I'll
about-
come back in less than 30 seconds.
I won't even tell them. They should please be tagging us on those their waste photos so that we can repost.
Yeah. All right, mic's up. Studio is live. Studio silence, please. Hey, were talking to you. Am I on my racing?
And I'm Valentine promising you that that's the last time you're going to hear her sing today.
No, I don't. That promise is not going to be kept.
Ah, boy.
Oh, today? Okay, maybe today. But hey, you just broke the promise.
Wow.
All right, we're talking about, we're not talking about singing today. It's actually about environmental sustainability for Nigeria, looking at the plastic plague. It has been a very enlightening conversation,
Yes.
and one that I hope that people will not just listen to and nod and think, good idea, but actually make personal commitments and corporate commitments to taking action with regards to what we've talked about today. We're looking at the plastic plague, like I mentioned, and we've had with us Oliver Modi and Gosi Toby Lord Williams from the Foundation for the Elimination of Single-Use Plastics, as well as Doyinsola Ogunye, who is from the Kids Beach Garden. And we've had a good conversation around ending the use of ending or totally stopping single-use plastics. Yeah. So we had a number of questions come through. Before we wrap up, because time is fast spent and we know that with these things, it will go really quickly. I'd love to go through and ask you, just a statement, your final statement, how you would want to galvanize or encourage people to take on and the importance of doing this. Who would want to start?
Okay, so I'll just start. So for us at the Foundation to Eliminate Single-Use Plastic, we're looking to do a whole lot, but the major thing is collaboration. So we know this cannot be done alone. We're looking to collaborate with other organizations that are fighting towards environmental sustainability for Nigeria. So we're doing a whole lot. We're going to run on campaigns, school tours, because just like Doyinsola said, starting from the young people, and imagine that children that were 5, 15 now running their own personal campaigns. That's a big deal. And if we're thinking of the generation to come, thinking of creating a better ecosystem for them, then we should start from them basically. So we're going to also go to churches, because I mean, when you come out from church, people say bombs outside the church and they use nylon bags. So we also need to channel it, go down to the grassroots and talk to them. So we have a lot of projects coming up this year. So you can follow us at End Single Use Plastic NG on Instagram. Follow us on our website, nsingleuseplastic.com, where you can follow all the projects that we'll be doing this year.
Somebody's listening and they're asking, please, I want you to tie this in with your closing statement. Somebody's asking what you're asking us now to sort the materials that we dispose of, throw away plastic properly and things like that. Where do we drop them?
Okay, it depends on where in Lagos you live. If you go on the Loma website, there are different PSP operators there, and there are also different recyclers on the website as well. You can put it on social media. We're on social media, Recyclers Association of Nigeria. We're also the Kids Beach Garden is actually a collection space in Lekki, and there are people that you can call to come and pick it from you. You understand? It's a Herculean task. So like everybody said, it takes a village. It takes the entire community to do something. No matter how little. The pure water sachets I see in my area, I pick all of them and I use it to plant
They're
flowers.
not pure, sachet.
Sir?
No, never mind.
So I use them, and they're also
use them to
recycled
plant
to plant flowers.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes, something else I was going to ask in your closing statements, because the reason why we started the closing statement so early is because it's going to be a long closing statement, because there are a number of things with regards to commitment that we want to get from people. And what you said is very practical. The truth is that we might have a global practice, but we'd love to localize it to what works for Nigerians.
Yes.
If not, we'll just be speaking and people will be like, okay, we'll be saying your own. How is that going to work? So I love what you mentioned. So you can take your plastics and turn them into water pots and vases and use them in your homes. What are the other ways? What are the practical ways that we can either eliminate,
Or
reuse, or what are the substitutes that people can use?
Okay. For plastic beverages, I always turn to, when I go to the supermarket, I always turn to canned drinks. I also turn to glass, depending on or Tetra. I think it's
Tetra Pak.
Tetra Packs. Yes. I always turn to Tetra Packs as well. It's not easy, for people like me, because we're all human and we definitely fall, once or twice. So this is a disclaimer. If you see me holding one, just don't say
Almost feel
Miss
like
Doyinsola.
feels like going from being a meat lover to a vegetarian. Eh?
So
But we'll get there.
yeah, we'll get it's those little steps, those baby steps of commitment. If you say, okay, this week, I'm not going to do plastic beverage, I'm going to do can. So every time I go out, I'll look to that. You are actually doing something. So imagine if 300,000 people are listening to this and are actually going to do that, it would help in the long run. Upcycling is also another thing you can do,
What does that mean?
basically turning something to something. So how will I explain this now?
Like potpourri, taking flowers that are dead and
And using it exactly. So using it for a higher value or
Thank you.
something. Yes.
Beautification.
Using it for beautification. You can use it for art, and different things like that. And then you can also sell, so that there are people in the upcycling space, as well. So so I would say that I know there's somebody out there. I'm feeling like a preacher today.
Yes.
But I know there's somebody out there that is a business person looking for how to eliminate the single-use sachets and bringing in the Tetra Pak or whatever it is we can use, for water. So I would say, well done to everybody doing something.
Yes.
And if you want to do something, start by banning it in your house.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you. Olive?
Okay,
30 seconds.
yes, and I'd like to quickly say, first of all, that the first step is to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at end single-use plastic on Instagram and ESOP now on other platforms. That's end single-use plastic NG on Instagram. Then quick helpful tips at home. Substitute when you go out to eat. You ask for their normal cutlery. So yesterday I went to eat at a restaurant and they gave me plastic and I refused it. And the guy's like, just eat it now. Just use this one. So we'll quickly throw it away. I said, no. I want to use your metal cutlery.
Good.
So request for metal cutlery. They will look at you like you're stupid. In time, the plan is that people will get the memo. Also, when you're going for shopping, carry your reusable bags. Always have your bags with you as much as possible. On the days when you now realize, I had to shop, I didn't carry my bags, and you ended up buying a plastic. If possible, like she suggested, use a bucket or something you can put your luggage into. And if you have to, by all means, use a plastic bag. Pack everything into one bag. There are many substitution tips that we will be sharing on Instagram. Stay away from straws. You can do without them. You won't die. Just little tips here
So
and there will
little
help.
lifestyle changes
Yeah.
that make a big difference.
Please, let's take it to social media. Let's continue this campaign. If you see anyone throwing away plastic out of the car and they are packed, stay with safe distance and throw that plastic back into the car.
Oh, yes.
Or take a picture and post it up.
Shame, name,
Tag.
picture and
With
shame.
their car plate number.
Yes.
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah.
If you find any that you feel it raises a concern, please take pictures and share with us on social media. Tag us at Smooth91FM. Use that hashtag Lagos Talks 91 and tag
Tag us too at end single-use plastic NG so that we can repost.
And you can also tag Kids Beach Garden.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much for being a great part of the conversation. Lagos, we get that commitment from you and we look forward to working together to end single-use plastics. Thank you very much from Valentine Ohu.
And Ayo Marese.
Have a good morning.
See how time went by so quickly.
Excuse me,
Thank
ma'am.
you.